Himari Momochi, an orphan, suddenly received an inheritance from her deceased parents when she turned 16. She arrived at the scene only to discover that the inheritance was an ancient mansion. As soon as she entered the house, she heard an explosion. When the smoke cleared, a naked man was standing inside. Stunned, Himari watched as two more people suddenly appeared. She quickly wrapped the naked man in clothes. Before she could even mistake these individuals for thieves, they suspected her first. The naked man, Aoi, did intend to introduce himself properly, but his companions, Issei and Yukari, were rather hostile towards Himari. Upon hearing that Himari was the legal owner of the mansion, they even told her to leave immediately. How could they be so brazen about seizing a civilian's home in this day and age? Yukari informed her that the mansion was famously haunted. Laughable, as if ghosts could scare Himari. It was poverty that truly frightened her. She immediately produced her parents' will, only to be mocked by Yukari and Issei, who suggested it might be fake. Himari was furious. This was her only connection to her family, and she did not want it to be disrespected. Despite this, Aoi urged her to leave quickly, indicating that it would be difficult for them otherwise. Himari was dumbfounded. How could robbers be so bold nowadays? Issei and Yukari explained to Himari that normal rules did not apply in this mansion, and that Aoi was now the master of the house. If you have a reason, then speak up, they challenged. Your mouth isn't just for show. Furious, if I were Himari, I could forgive emotional deceit, but not the theft of my home. Home is a sanctuary, don't you understand? Aoi allowed Himari to stay the night, urging her to leave at dawn. That night, Himari heard rustling noises, recalling the local tales of hauntings. She tried to convince herself that what she was seeing was an illusion, but then she saw a sinister figure outside the door. Regardless, she was determined to drive these people out and reclaim her parents' belongings. The next day, in an effort to prove she was the true owner of the house, she decided to prepare a proper breakfast. To her surprise, she found the kitchen equipped with an old stove, and Yukari had already prepared breakfast, including a portion for Himari. Nearly swayed by the meal, Himari admitted defeat in culinary skills. Deciding to do a major cleaning, she discovered that the house was in complete disarray, mainly due to Issei's messiness. When Aoi arrived, he praised Himari for being diligent in doing housework early in the morning. Relieved, Himari thought it fortunate that he had put on clothes. She asserted that since this was her home, it was only natural for her to clean it thoroughly. Aoi continued his praises, curiously picking up Himari's phone to take a look, which promptly exploded. Issei and Yukari immediately rushed over to check on Aoi after the explosion. "What are you three up to now?" Himari, in tears, held her phone and left. She continued cleaning the house, finding it seemingly endless and still puzzled by the shadowy figure she had seen the night before. Suddenly, she felt dust on her skin and looked up to see a group of resentful spirits, all demanding she leave immediately. Himari was furious. This was her house after all. "How dare these filthy creatures tell me to leave?" She shouted and yelled, "Get out!" at the spirits, who were blown away. Hearing the commotion, Aoi and Yukari came running, only to find Issei and other small demons scattered on the floor. With the truth now unavoidable, Aoi tied up the group and explained to Himari that they were indeed demons gathered here, and it wasn't their intention to drive her away. This place had become a hub for demons who had nowhere else to go. Although Aoi was not a demon himself, Issei and Yukari, who were demons, treated him as family. Himari envied this family-like atmosphere and momentarily considered joining them, but Aoi still wished for her to leave. Heartbroken, Himari stormed out. Are dramas this abstract now? She thought. How could someone just move into someone else's mansion and then have the audacity to kick out the original owner? Yet Himari had just accepted it. But when a demon sensed the Momochi family bloodline in her, it tried to drain her life force. Aoi supported Himari and drew out the evil spirit with a kiss. Moreover, he transformed right in front of her, revealing his true form, a white-haired fox demon with peacock feather tails. Issei and Yukari, his Shikigami, restrained the demons while he dealt the final blow. Himari asked Aoi if he was a demon, but Issei and Yukari explained that Aoi was a guardian deity. Her family's house was built on a rift between the spirit world and the real world. making Aoi the rightful guardian and heir. Overwhelmed, Himari fainted, faintly hearing Aoi confess that he had lived all this time just to protect her. The next day, Aoi found Himari awake and full of spirit. She acknowledged that Aoi had advised her to leave for her own good, but this was the last remnant of her parents, and she wanted to explore their past here. After all, this is my home. How can I just leave? Faced with her determination, Aoi was at a loss. Himari was still unsure about what the future held, but when she opened her eyes the next morning, she found Aoi, disheveled, lying at the edge of her bed. Startled, she punched him. After hearing that Aoi had crawled into someone else's bed because he was cold, Himari punched him again. She remarked that Aoi's behavior was strange. That morning, she had gotten up to clean the house, only to discover that it wasn't actually messy. The mess from before was due to Issei intentionally causing havoc to drive her out sooner. With a sigh, Himari reminded everyone that she was, after all, the landlord, and decided to collect some rent, only to find out that none of them had jobs. The necessities of life, such as food and clothing, mysteriously appeared in the house, likely brought by the local little demons. However, Himari was indeed the master of the house. After all, when she got angry and demanded someone to leave, Issei, who was mocking her, was thrown out of the house. Additionally, Himari found out that Aoi neither worked nor attended school, and her transfer procedures were almost complete. She kept busy until evening when she unexpectedly found Aoi setting up a barrier. According to Yukari and Issei, the barrier was set up for her protection. Himari asked Aoi to put on some clothes and decided to have a serious talk with him to understand what exactly was going on with the house and why he had become a guardian deity. Aoi explained that his human form and guardian deity form were one and the same. Many years ago, when Aoi was just a child, he accidentally entered the mansion and broke its seal. Originally, there should have been a guardian deity here, but the mansion's owner was not present, and Aoi's unique physique made him the chosen new guardian. If Aoi hadn't entered by mistake, it was highly likely that Himari would have been the guardian deity, especially since she had inherited the family's bloodline. Himari felt guilty, knowing that Aoi, just a child at the time, had taken on such a burden simply because he got lost. However, Aoi comforted her, saying that driving away demons was pretty cool. As for Himari's question about whether living without being able to save oneself was pointless, Aoi avoided the topic. Himari had a sleepless night, feeling that Aoi must be suffering, otherwise he wouldn't have shown such a pained expression. But she heard a strange voice saying they wanted to release Aoi from his burdens by picking a fruit from a tree. Subconsciously, Himari did as instructed, and the tree immediately turned into a demon demanding her soul in exchange. Fortunately, Aoi arrived just in time, and after regaining her senses, he transformed and summoned his Shikigami. Though defeating the tree demon was very taxing for him, it was suggested that maybe they should return the powers to Himari, as she seemed sturdier than Aoi and probably wouldn't have a problem dealing with demons. Worried that Himari might be upset, Aoi tried to make her laugh. Subsequently, Himari decided to take Aoi out to enjoy the flowers, only to discover that Aoi was trapped by the mansion's barrier and could not leave. It turned out that since Aoi had wandered into the mansion 7 years ago, he had never left. No wonder he seemed weak and sickly. Being cooped up for so long really is harmful. Moreover, through the inquiries of the Shikigami, it seems that in the outside world, Aoi has never existed from the beginning. No one remembers him, and no one knows him. Aoi believes that this place is his dwelling. It was then that Himari realized why Aoi wanted her to leave. He was actually envious of her freedom. Himari learned from Yukari that when Aoi first got lost and wandered into the mansion, he searched through all the books trying to find a way out, but was unsuccessful. The two urged Himari to leave quickly, even if she was willing to stay in Aoi's place. This kind of sympathy was not what Aoi desired. Moreover, the two Shikigami staying with Aoi, unlike humans, would never betray him. They also urged Himari to leave quickly, as she could not bear these karmic burdens. It was odd. Wasn't Himari the master of the house? The estate was taken away, her powers diminished, and the Shikigami did not stand by her. If this were a novel on Jinjiang, it would be time to start a revenge plot. Could this be a plot of the true and false heiress? Himari wandered aimlessly in the streets and unexpectedly bumped into a teacher from the school she was about to transfer to. Seeing that Himari was troubled, after learning she was a transfer student and hearing about her dilemmas, the teacher advised her that since she didn't know whether she would regret any choice she made, she should at least make a decision. That way, she could say she did her best afterward. This immediately lifted Himari's spirits. On the other hand, Aoi felt very regretful that he could not smile when Himari left. Unexpectedly, he was then hit by a large suitcase. Himari declared that she was in for a long fight, as she came carrying a load of things, stating that she wanted to find a way for Aoi to leave the place. This was not out of sympathy for Aoi. As the master of the house, she wanted to trace her parents' footsteps and also figure out the truth about the mansion. Ultimately, she planned to find a way to kick out Aoi. Aoi's heart raced, and he hugged Himari tightly. Wait, I have a question. So Aoi only has an elementary school diploma? No matter how tough it is, we can't neglect a child's education. Himari thought she had gotten used to the quirks of the mansion. But one day she woke up to find Aoi and the others dressed in women's clothing. The story goes back to the day Himari officially transferred. She changed into her uniform ready to report to high school. The green-haired teacher she had met before turned out to be her homeroom teacher. The teacher said that although the school was not big, all the students in the class were good kids. Himari was initially nervous, but she never expected things to develop so quickly. After school, she inexplicably ended up bringing a group of classmates to her house for a visit. As everyone was curious about the so-called haunted house, Izuka and Tanui, both first-time hikers, were eager for the mountain trek. During a casual conversation among classmates, Seinu, a geeky boy, mentioned that his grandmother used to say that there were ghosts in the old house. Ryusei, a girl with a high ponytail, thought he was exaggerating. Just because they were discussing this topic, they somehow ended up deciding to explore the Momochi house. Himari, thinking it wasn't good to refuse on her first day at school, reluctantly agreed. She definitely couldn't let them find out that there were actual spirits in her house. Fortunately, when they arrived home, the minor spirits didn't cause any trouble. Himari had previously asked Aoi to ensure he did not reveal that they were living together, as she knew the true identities of the trio, but outsiders might not see it that way. Himari initially planned to serve tea, but then she found the three dressed in women's clothing, pretending to be her sisters. Seinu was smitten with Issei at first sight. Aoi quickly hugged Himari, but soon realized something was amiss. He made up an excuse to take Himari away and informed her that one of her 4 classmates had died and was now a wandering spirit, not yet a demon, but absorbing the demonic energy from the house due to the family's recognition. This spirit was on the verge of transforming into a demon, but Aoi was unsure who the deceased was, as all of them were invited by Himari, and they couldn't interfere. Unless Himari identified the deceased and used her verbal charms to expel them, the curses and demonic energy in the house would not dissipate. Exposure might lead to other classmates getting hurt, and Aoi couldn't act directly as his power might accelerate the transformation into demons. Thus, Himari took on the task. Upon returning, Himari noticed Izuka seemed anxious to use the restroom, so she led the way. The reflection of Izuka in the mirror seemed off, but nothing happened when Himari looked back. Recalling their conversation during the hike, she wondered who was lying. Then she heard a heavy thud. Opening the door, she found Izuka collapsed on the floor, with a red-haired man on the roof looking forward to what would happen next. Himari informed Yukari and discovered that Izuka's soul had vanished, but the other two mentioned that the aura of death hadn't dissipated, suggesting that the murderer might be among the remaining 3. If the culprit wasn't found soon, the other 2 would be in danger. Aoi told Himari that the murderer would likely exhibit some inconsistencies. Returning to the room, the 3 heard Izuka was feeling unwell and resting in another room, and they immediately expressed a wish to visit her. Himari had no choice but to lead them to where Izuka was resting. Along the way, Himari and Tanui chatted. Tanui shared that she used to be very frail and seldom came to school, but she was happy to be out with everyone today. She wished she had gathered the courage to step out sooner and thank the person who encouraged her. Just then, Himari felt someone watching her. The trio had already moved ahead. Himari quickly caught up to them, wanting to ask Tanui who had encouraged her. However, Ryusei and Seinu both paused for a moment, stating that there was no one named Tanui with them. Aoi arrived at the scene and urged Himari to quickly send Tanui away. But Himari insisted that it wasn't Tanui who should be sent away. She pointed towards a figure in the door crack, telling him to leave quickly. When the door was opened, it turned out to be Izuka, or more precisely, the red-haired man possessing Izuka. This person was named Kasha. Why Kasha, not a bullet train? It would be faster, he joked. As soon as Kasha appeared, he knocked out the two classmates. On the other side, Aoi was protecting Himari, summoning spirit guardians to ensure her safety. Meanwhile, Kasha lured Tanui to his side, telling her that by consuming Aoi, her wishes could be fulfilled. During the attack, Himari heard Tanui's inner voice. This child was very lonely. No one could see her, which is why she wanted to become a powerful demon to be noticed and make friends. Aoi was ready to disperse Tanui's soul outright, but during the attack, Himari grabbed Tanui. She saw how Tanui, weakened by illness and friendless until death, had always been lonely. But to Himari, they were already friends. Recognized and reassured, Tanui peacefully vanished. Kasha, finding the situation dull, mentioned he would come back for more fun and called Aoi a friend. Himari was puzzled about who Kasha really was, but Aoi urged her to forget the incident. When the three classmates regained consciousness, Aoi and the others had to slip away quickly. Himari made up an excuse about a broken chimney. Ryusei did not probe further, and even helped cover for Himari. It seemed Ryusei knew something as before leaving. She told Himari she hadn't heard or seen anything, and wouldn't inquire about the family's disguise, simply saying, "See you tomorrow." Making friends was about leaving some privacy for others. Issei was initially forced to sign a contract with Aoi. That day, Aoi noticed that the seals were loosening, possibly due to Kasha's appearance. He had to protect Himari before anything bad happened. After school, when Himari returned home, the atmosphere felt off. The minor spirits also approached Himari, blaming the earlier disturbance on Kasha. They seemed to both fear and admire Kasha, even afraid to speak his name. "What is this? A Voldemort plus Evil King Pro Max version?" they joked. However, neither Ise nor Yukari seemed afraid of Kasha. The minor spirits informed Himari that Yukari and Ise were very powerful demons. Yukari was older, while Ise came from a renowned beast family and was a legendary fearsome demon. Meanwhile, Aoi was still puzzled. Kasha had gone through great lengths just to create small cracks in these seals, and Aoi couldn't understand what he ultimately wanted. Himari sought out Aoi to inquire about Kasha, but found Aoi somewhat reluctant to answer. She decided to directly ask Ise instead, since both he and Kasha wielded fire. Ise explained that their flames were different in nature. Kasha's flames were dark fires that absorbed everything, while his own were surely more powerful. However, he mentioned that he had relinquished the constraints of being a demon and was now merely Aoi's Shikigami. Himari asked if it was possible for them to burn away the marks that marred their home, as they made it seem as though Kasha was flaunting his power. Aoi and the others were stunned because they couldn't see the marks at all. It appeared that only Himari could see them clearly. Suddenly, the marks ignited, and the seals were released. Fortunately, Aoi reacted quickly to protect Himari. However, as he transformed, he was immediately ensnared by vines, seemingly a curse set by Kasha specifically targeting Aoi. Aoi warned them not to come near him, but Ise, anxious to save his friend, unleashed even stronger flames, although he managed to burn only part of the curse. Ise quickly lost control over his powers. It turned out that once these Shikigami, like Ise, were bound by a contract, all their power was transferred to Aoi. But now, with Aoi sealed, the connection between him and his Shikigami was severed. Using power rashly could end up consuming themselves. Himari was deeply concerned about Ise's condition. Ise was determined to save his dear brother. Before he had contracted with Aoi, his family had disowned him and cursed him. The curse would burn his body if he used his power in the human world because he did not follow the rules, branding him a disgrace. Ise claimed he harbored no feelings for his family, but the small dog demon that stayed by his side thought differently. Therefore, the dog demon had always accompanied Ise, and the two had become friends. One day, the dog demon expressed a desire to visit the human world, envious of the connections humans had with their families and companions. Although Ise didn't understand the appeal of these connections, He didn't want to refuse the dog demon's request. They ended up at the Momochi family residence, which could have provided a gateway to the human world. However, the area was infested with demons. To protect the dog demon, Issei used his powers, burning the demons, but also triggering the curse that consumed him. When he regained consciousness, Aoi had saved him. Aoi told Issei that if this continued, the curse would devour him. The only way to be saved was to sign a contract with Aoi. Initially, Issei thought Aoi wanted his power, but Aoi revealed that he was acting on the request of Issei's friend. It turned out that in order to save Issei, the dog demon had exhausted all its power, leaving just enough to meet Issei one last time after he woke up, hoping he could continue to live. Issei then realized they had already become friends. Issei, who lost his friend, was filled with regret and vowed never to let his companions face danger again. Now, naturally, he considered Aoi as his brother. Seeing him continuously unleashing his power, Himari wanted to stop him, but her voice couldn't reach him. The only way was for Aoi to reclaim his powers. If Himari could command Issei, perhaps she could stop him. Unwilling to give up, she decided to take a risk. Meanwhile, Kasha, not Eruo, took great satisfaction in torturing Aoi, claiming that Aoi now belonged to their side, the demons. Kasha intended to take Aoi to a dark and shadowy world. However, at that moment, Himari, protected by Yukari's barrier, rushed forward and awakened Aoi's consciousness. Seizing the opportunity, Yukari broke the ropes, successfully reclaiming the power, awakening Issei, and burning away the demons with a blast of fire. The residence was largely destroyed in the process. Issei, drenched in sweat, assured that he would repair it. Himari nodded, agreeing to help with the repairs. After this battle, Issei and Yukari gained a new level of respect for Himari, who had not faltered under such circumstances. Aoi, who disliked Kasha's remark that he wasn't human, looked at Himari's smile and couldn't help but hug and playfully bite her, startling Himari. Aoi then expressed his desire to stay longer in this world, a sentiment Himari couldn't quite understand. Neither Issei nor Aoi knew how long their contract would last. Although it was a matter of necessity back then, now they had both decided to stay by Issei's side. One morning, as Himari was yawning on her way to school, she noticed a boy wrapped in strange black mist. Just as she was about to approach him to ask what was wrong, the boy warned her not to come closer, lest she be cursed. "Are you also going to be an unfortunate Genji?" When she arrived at school, Himari realized that this boy, named Hidaka, was the subject of much gossip. He seldom came to school. There were rumors that those who approached Hidaka either fell ill or got injured. Senu mentioned that Hidaka used to be lively, but he often talked about a childhood friend who had disappeared, leading people to say that Hidaka was cursed. However, Ryusei thought these were just rumors. Senu added that some said Hidaka's family had kept a demon. If Himari wanted to know more, she could ask the class teacher who was familiar with local affairs. The class teacher was pleased to see Himari taking an initiative to learn more about her classmates and told her that the family demon referred to the possibility that the family had employed some demons. This was not uncommon, as such families were often wealthy and susceptible to jealousy and ostracism from those around them. The class teacher informed Himari that the Hidaka family hadn't been ostracized because they had a good relationship with the Momochi family in the past. Himari's family had been the prayer masters of the area, and the previous family head was very amiable and had maintained good relations with the Hidaka family. Himari's interest was piqued immediately, and she decided to visit Hidaka's home. After school, she went straight to his house. However, she was led by a gust of wind to a shrine in front of the house. Himari, as usual, was not one to remember lessons from past experiences, and almost opened the shrine. Fortunately, Hidaka stopped her just in time. Himari asked him about her parents, but Hidaka did not know anything. He also warned Himari not to get involved with his curse and hurriedly sent her away. On her way back, Himari encountered a small fox. The fox warned her not to approach Hidaka again and expressed its determination not to let go of Hidaka. When Himari returned home, she shared this with Aoi and was surprised to learn that Aoi and Hidaka were childhood friends. However, Aoi felt that Hidaka might not remember him since his entry into the barrier made him virtually disappear from the external world. Hearing this, Himari felt somewhat disheartened. Hidaka had sleepless nights, unable to recall what his missing childhood friend looked like. Could it be that the second male lead has always been concerned about the protagonist? One morning, Hidaka stepped outside and found Himari at his doorstep. She told him that she was immune to the curse. She mentioned that Hidaka was a kind person who, fearing that others might be affected, had distanced himself from them. Himari told Hidaka that when she was leaving, she saw a child wearing a fox mask and knew it must be a yokai. She told him that she couldn't just ignore what she had seen. With no other choice, Hidaka revealed that up to his grandfather's generation, his family could see yokai, but now no one in his family could. He knew something was following him because he had made a deal. Inside Hidaka's notebook was a 4-leaf clover given by his friend, but he could not recall his friend's face or name, only that he was a smart child, and they had a good relationship. One day, his friend suddenly started avoiding him. Desperate to mend their friendship, Hidaka searched everywhere for 4-leaf clovers as a gift. He inadvertently came to the shrine, where a voice offered to make a deal to help him find the clovers, but would take away the most important thing to Hidaka. As a child, Hidaka agreed without understanding the consequences. After finally finding the clovers and ready to meet his friend, he discovered that his friend had disappeared from the world. No one remembered his friend. Not even Hidaka could recall his name or face. Could it be that the most important thing taken was the protagonist himself? Hidaka always believed that it was his fault his friend disappeared and could never forgive himself. He thought it was a curse his friend had cast on him, but he was willing to accept this fate. However, Himari told him that his friend had not disappeared and even offered to help break the curse. Himari returned to the house and shared the incident with Aoi, mentioning that Hidaka faintly remembered Aoi's existence. Aoi sighed, saying he probably wasn't tricked by Hidaka. It just so happened that on the day he got lost, Hidaka had made a wish. The reason Hidaka was cursed was that his family had indeed made a contract with a yokai in the past. However, the Hidaka family could no longer see yokai, and thus couldn't offer the proper offerings. The yokai did not understand human actions, and ended up cursing Hidaka. As for the most important thing, Aoi sighed again. To dissolve the contract between Hidaka and the fox, they needed Himari's help. Following Aoi's instructions, Himari cleaned the shrine and then reconducted the worship, lifting the seal. This summoned the fox spirit family inside, and after communicating, they learned that the Hidaka family could no longer see them. They decided to accept Himari's invitation to go to Aoi's place. However, the elder brother of the foxes disagreed and insisted on targeting Himari. The rest of the foxes decided to stall their elder brother, allowing Himari to escape with Hidaka. Himari guessed that the child with the fox mask wanted to prove his strength, thinking this would make Hidaka aware of his existence. Knowing that she was the target, Himari instructed Hidaka to escape first. Hidaka, unwilling to abandon a friend again, fled with Himari. As they ran, the fox caught up and flipped them both over, sending them into Aoi's territory. The fox was suddenly struck, and its mask was cut off, revealing Aoi's childhood appearance. Hidaka also found the fox and apologized. After hearing the full story, he understood the fox's feelings, realizing he too had rarely communicated with friends. But it was time to bring things to a close, so he returned what belonged to Hidaka, which turned out to be his memories of his friend. Aoi took the opportunity to tell Hidaka that his friend had not been harmed by him, but had already passed away. Shocked, Hidaka blurted out that he wanted to commit suicide to follow his friend. Damn, why does it feel like everyone in this series loves the protagonist? Who told me this was a shoujo series? Aoi couldn't let his old buddy die, so he knocked him unconscious, lamenting that the child had only grown up physically. The next day, Himari went to see Hidaka as usual, but found that Hidaka only remembered the fox and had completely forgotten Aoi's existence as a friend. She felt deeply saddened, thinking Aoi didn't deserve such an ending. Yukari woke from a nightmare, immediately sensing something was wrong. That day, as soon as Himari entered the living room, she saw that the little spirits had found Aoi, reporting that the spring water nearby had been polluted. The spring water in this narrow space was protected by the dragon god. Pollution indicated that something might have happened to the dragon god. Yukari had also tried to communicate with the dragon god through the water source, but to no avail. Yukari was once a retainer of the dragon god before becoming a yokai. In fact, he was originally a human and had been offered as a living sacrifice to the dragon god. Unable to contact the dragon god, Yukari decided to take Aoi and the others to the residence of the dragon god, only to find that the deity was not there. On reflection, Yukari realized it had been a long time since he last saw the dragon god. At that moment, Yukari felt unwell, and everyone noticed that the spring water was suddenly polluted. As Yukari's condition worsened, it became apparent that something serious had happened to the dragon god. If nothing was done, Yukari might disappear completely. However, to communicate with the dragon god, one had to either be a retainer or a living sacrifice. Himari considered offering herself, but Yukari and the others strongly opposed this, arguing that it was too dangerous and that Himari was the head of their family. Aoi insisted they would find another way. Despite their efforts, no solution was found. Himari came forward, but Aoi still disagreed with sacrificing her. Aoi explained that Yukari was the first Shikigami he encountered, and the only person who had helped him when he was trapped and unable to leave. For Aoi, Yukari was like a reliable parent. Himari, who had not lived there long, expressed her fondness for this family and her willingness to communicate with the dragon god, despite the deity's inability to understand human language. The dragon god had given Yukari the spring water, which now overflowed with loneliness. Aoi understood Himari's desire to help Yukari, but did not want her to face danger, promising to remove the deity himself if the dragon god was the source of the pollution. Ultimately, both decided to establish communication with the dragon god through the ritual of a living sacrifice. Himari dressed as the sacrifice, and Aoi personally conducted the sacrificial ceremony. However, the dragon god that was summoned took the form of an evil deity. It turned out that the dragon god was the source of the pollution. Without immediately letting Aoi remove the deity, Himari chose to talk. She was then swept into the spring by the polluted water. Aoi was prepared to follow her, knowing that killing the deity would also bring punishment upon himself, but he refused to let anyone take Himari away. At that moment, Yukari arrived at the scene and asked Aoi to release his true form so he could appease the dragon god. Yukari claimed he understood the true intentions of the dragon god. Aoi had no choice but to agree. Yukari immediately went into the water and found Himari, but the dragon god was already charging towards them. As Himari opened her eyes, she saw Yukari's past memories and was moved to tears. Before becoming a yokai, Yukari was an orphan picked up by the nobility to be trained as an assassin tasked with assassinating the emperor and even dressed as a girl for this purpose. However, another assassin acted first and tried to kill Yukari too, framing him. Yukari fought back, killing them, but was eventually captured and falsely accused of attempting to assassinate the emperor. He was then offered as a living sacrifice to the dragon god. For some reason, Yukari was spared by the dragon god and became one of its retainers. The dragon god favored him greatly, but one day suddenly, Yukari was sent away to the Momochi family estate and forbidden from returning. Since then, Yukari has been unable to find the dragon god. Yukari couldn't understand why the dragon god had sent him away. However, Himari suggested that the dragon god likely saw that Yukari was lonely on his own. Yukari realized that he was indeed happy now. Himari encouraged him to help restore the dragon god. Together, they pursued the deity. Himari, with her sharp eyes, spotted a talisman on the dragon god and immediately rushed to remove it, which surprisingly restored the dragon god to its original form. "No way, you are the dragon god. This is quite a mess, isn't it?" The dragon god explained that it had initially severed ties with Yukari, hoping that Yukari would establish connections with Aoi and the others. However, the dragon god did not anticipate feeling so lonely after Yukari left, and had inadvertently fallen into the trap set by evildoers. Now that it had regained its power, it could easily eliminate the sources of pollution. The dragon god expressed its desire for Yukari to serve a new master, and mentioned that it would patrol regularly. Himari, however, suggested that they should meet occasionally since relationships require exchanges. The dragon god tearfully agreed. Finally, Himari and Yukari came ashore together. Aoi was very worried about Himari's condition, but he had always believed that Yukari could take charge of the situation. "Listen, I've seen Himari constantly talking things through. Surely this time the credit should go to Himari, right? This show could be renamed Reliable Himari and Her Unreliable Men. Whenever Himari recalls Aoi's words from when she was a live sacrifice, She can't face him at school. Realizing her own odd behavior, she starts avoiding Aoi. During class, Ryusei sends her a note saying her face is red, asking if she likes someone. Himari dismisses the idea, seeing Aoi only as family. Her disheveled look catches the teacher's attention, who notices she forgot her homework and punishes her to clean the ancient literature classroom. Ryusei and Hidaka help her, and Sanu joins, mentioning the teacher is his occult studies instructor. Upon entering the classroom, they find the teacher present amid bizarre items. Among them is a tarnished mirror, which the teacher claims can reveal one's true desires. Encouraged to think of someone whose heart she wishes to see, Himari and the others look into the mirror but see nothing due to its blurriness. Himari is relieved, feeling it's rude to pry into others' thoughts. Returning home after cleaning, Himari's parents, who are supposed to be dead, greet her with smiles. She feels something is off, but can't remember why. Kasha appears, mocking her for being deceived by illusions. After Kasha vanishes, Himari confronts her parents, who then attack her. She flees to her room and finds the teacher's mirror there. As she picks it up, the figures reappear. Yukari and Issei then rescue her, assuring her that the room, protected by a barrier, is safe, and they were previously trapped. Despite Himari's suspicions about Kasha, Yukari says it doesn't matter as long as they stay in the safe room. When Himari asks about Aoi and receives a vague answer, she senses something is wrong. She escapes, only to be confronted by the false parents again until Aoi appears, defeating the shadows and noticing the mirror. Himari explains the teacher's rumor about the mirror revealing hearts. Aoi then asks whose heart she wants to see, playfully suggesting she wants to see his, causing Himari to blush and claim it was just a coincidence. Aoi told Himari she didn't need to look, as he was devoted to her and hoped she would always stay by his side. Himari agreed to stay with Aoi. Suddenly, Aoi asked if Himari could lock him up, which alarmed her because she had previously said she would let Aoi leave this place. Aoi dismissed it as irrelevant because he was now a demon. Himari stepped back, insisting Aoi would never say such things, and once again broke free from the illusion. Unexpectedly, the mirror began speaking in Himari's voice, claiming it represented the world she desired. It accused Himari of being an outsider in her own home, not truly considered family, and only a burden to Aoi and the others. It suggested Aoi was protecting her merely to preserve the family lineage. The mirror declared that many truths had been hidden from Himari. However, Himari chose to trust Aoi and her own feelings. She declared her desire not for an unchanging present, but for a future that changes with Aoi. Rejecting this false world, the mirror shattered as soon as Himari affirmed her desires. Kasha hadn't expected Himari's resolve to be so firm. His comments were merely out of annoyance with the mirror. Hearing that Himari wanted to return to her family, Kasha played the Riddler again. Himari understood the hidden meaning, found the mirror, and saw Aoi in it, thus returning to reality. Upon awakening, she found her teacher and Hidaka very worried because she had fainted for a few minutes. The nightmare had reinforced her convictions. Her teacher was curious about her dream, but after confirming her feelings, Himari rushed home and confessed her love to Aoi without hesitation. However, after a brief silence, Aoi rejected her, stating he did not see her romantically. Yukari, knowing Himari was rejected, made lavish meals to comfort her daily. Issa, trying to make her laugh, danced with the little demons, but their song about rejection left Himari furious. Aoi continued to interact with Himari as before, making her think he might see her as family, perhaps due to his young mental age, or not seeing her as a girl. Suddenly, a demon broke through the seal. Aoi, usually capable of handling this, found his powers ineffective. Ultimately, Himari drove the demons away. Aoi admitted to being in a slump, but couldn't pinpoint the reason. Yukari and the others believed it would improve. Himari worried about Aoi's discomfort, but he seemed to avoid her touch. Issei and Yukari sighed, watching this unfold. Then, a large cat broke into the house. It was Granny Cat, who mentioned rumors in the demon world about this family pathway to the human world. Access is now unrestricted, so it's likely a horde of demons will soon arrive. Granny Cat brought her minions to help, declaring that to revive the family, she planned a matchmaking event for Aoi to get him married sooner. Himari was stunned and noted Aoi was still human, but Granny Cat countered, claiming Himari couldn't understand Aoi as a human. This comment hurt Himari deeply. At school, she heard Senyu and others discussing a strange tale of a ghost in uniforms abducting children at dusk in the park. Hidaka advised against going there, mentioning he had seen the figure in his youth. But it seemed unlike any demon, though he couldn't recall the details clearly. Himari felt Hidaka's memory lapse was likely related to Aoi, so she asked if they knew about Aoi's family. However, everyone seemed unclear. Himari only knew Aoi had been imprisoned, unaware that his family seemed to have vanished too. While Himari pondered, Granny Cat kept urging Aoi to attend the matchmaking, but Aoi had already hidden. Granny Cat then treated Himari like a maid, exclaiming, "Isn't this Himari's house?" Yukari quietly came by during the cleaning, bringing food and telling Himari that Aoi was in a slump, probably because of rejecting her, though Aoi himself seemed unaware. However, Granny Cat overheard their conversation. Being a demon who had raised Aoi, she knew Aoi might have feelings for Himari, so she decided to test Himari. Confusingly, the outsider was testing the family head. Still, when Granny Cat mentioned losing a family heirloom hairpin, Himari helped search for it in the pond with a flashlight. Granny Cat didn't expect her earnest effort and decided to sleep. Himari kept searching alone, but slipped and was caught by Aoi, who had been hiding. While Aoi tried to convince her to stop, Himari persisted, and he stayed to help, believing the heirloom was irreplaceable. Curious about Aoi's past family, Himari asked about them. Aoi seemed to treat those family members as mere acquaintances. Afterward, Aoi returned to normal, dispelling the demons, though it visibly strained him, prompting Granny Cat to suggest she stop searching and do something else. To cheer up Aoi, Himari hosted a lively hot pot feast. It was a festive scene, and Aoi seemed a bit happier. However, a small demon, overly excited, nearly stewed itself. Aoi, protecting Himari, accidentally knocked her over. When Himari noticed Aoi getting up, resembling his transformed self, she instinctively pulled him back, and they awkwardly separated. Yukari turned on the light and saw them close, smiling with relief. Himari was curious about what had just happened. The next day, Granny Cat gave her hairpin to Himari, explaining that it was originally a lantern capable of illuminating the path to an important truth. She told Himari that Aoi was a lost child, unsure whether Himari could be the light to guide his path. Aoi was beginning to forget the way back, intentionally forgetting painful memories to avoid revisiting past traumas. Not wanting Aoi to turn into a demon, Himari decided to help him find his way home and went to inquire about Aoi's family from the teacher. However, the map did not show this area. After Himari left, the teacher sighed, wondering if Aoi had grown up. Meanwhile, Aoi was practicing spells when Yukari came to tell him that Himari planned to visit Ryunichi Park with friends. The name of the park made Aoi pause. Yukari noted that Aoi had been out of sorts, possibly due to rejecting Himari, which hurt her or because he was fearing something. At Ryunichi Park, the group found it overgrown and deserted, a place rumored to be where demons abducted children, keeping the local kids away. Although the area used to be popular, they found no suspicious persons and were about to leave when someone suddenly appeared, humming a tune. Initially startled, Himari watched as Ryusei confronted the cloaked figure, revealing it was Senyu, who usually enjoyed spooky stories but never scared people. After Ryusei's reprimand, Senyu apologized. When asked about the cloak, Senyu could not remember where it came from. On the way back, both Hidaka and Himari felt suspicious, since Senyu typically didn't spread false rumors. Additionally, Hidaka had also seen that shadow as a child, but strangely couldn't recall details. Only that something unpleasant had happened at the park. He disliked the feeling of lost memories, feeling as though he remembered nothing from his childhood. Himari knew it was likely because his memories had been taken. Hidaka had intended to walk her home, but Himari declined after learning that he had almost gotten lost in the forest looking for her. She knew it was due to a mystical fog created by her family to keep outsiders away. Just as Himari reached her doorstep, she heard the tune Senyu had sung earlier. Thinking he was pranking her again, she was shocked to discover the tune was sung by a demon possessing Senyu, who had been invited into the mansion. Aoi and others arrived to save Himari. Initially, Aoi knocked the cloak off Senyu, but the cloak spoke to Aoi. commenting on how he seemed to have grown up. The teacher smiled as the passage opened, and the cloak dissolved into feathers and disappeared. All the little demons were afraid of the black cloak. Issei escorted Senu back. The demons patrolled the mansion and found nothing amiss. Yukari felt the black feather seemed harmless, but was unsure what it said to Aoi. The mention of that phrase gave Aoi a headache. Yukari suspected the cloak was a tsukumogami attached to a piece of clothing, so she specifically looked for the coat Aoi had worn when he first arrived at the mansion. He felt uneasy about it. Aoi was curious about Yukari's feelings when he first transformed from human to demon. Yukari said initially he felt nothing, but then felt everything was far from him, leading to loneliness and pain. Even love faded. Yukari asked Aoi how he felt now, noticing Aoi seemed under much pressure. As a human, he was in pain, but as a demon, the pain would fade over time. Yukari once thought this was good, but now he wondered if it really benefited Aoi. He asked if Aoi truly wanted to forget his human memories, as it seemed he had given up something important by joining this family. But were those lost things truly inconsequential? Aoi was ready to become a demon, but he seemed to hold on to some things. As Aoi pondered, Himari appeared. He had rejected her confession, yet couldn't help being close to her. Wasn't that quite fickle? Luckily, Himari, beautiful and kind, wasn't angry, but comforted Aoi, reminding him everyone was there. Aoi was moved and almost kissed her. Then the black feather appeared again, saying it had been waiting for Aoi. As Aoi and Himari reached the front door, the black feather kept reminding Aoi to remember. The more of his memory returned, the stronger their connection would grow. Issei and Yukari arrived at the scene and were entangled by the black feather. Under its urging, Aoi recalled a memory, and the family's main gate opened. Surprisingly, the teacher, dressed as a monk, emerged, summoning two Tengu, saying Aoi was pitiable, kept in this mansion, and he could help Aoi leave if he became the teacher's Shikigami. Himari noticed the teacher held the same talisman that was on the divine dragon. In the teacher's eyes, the protagonist was his property. It was life or death. She was ready to fight them all. The teacher had seen demons since childhood, but even his parents didn't believe him, thinking he just wanted attention. Now he had orchestrated a break-in into the mansion and prevented Aoi from transforming into a demon. Issei and Yukari were also trapped. The teacher aimed to gain control by entering the Momochi mansion, but he lacked the qualifications, so he searched for a talented child instead. Day after day in Ryubi Park, he found talented Aoi, seeing in Aoi the child he once was, untrusted and mocked. Aoi's parents didn't believe him, only the teacher did, so they often met in the park. The teacher deceived Aoi, suggesting his disappearance might benefit his family, then told him about a mansion deep in the mountains, the Momochi residence, where Aoi could hide for a while. If his family searched, they might find him. If not, the teacher promised to fetch him. So Aoi wasn't lost. He was lured here. But Aoi had no memory of the teacher, who claimed he was driven here by family malice and demons. The teacher hadn't anticipated Aoi's strong talents, and after becoming a guardian spirit, he couldn't be overtaken easily. So the teacher discarded this failing plan. Cursing, disgusted, he suggested Himari seize the power and confront them, claiming Himari's appearance disrupted Aoi's balance, and the will was sent to her intentionally, mocking her lack of power despite her lineage. The teacher restrained Aoi, aiming to steal the guardian spirit's power, to control all demons in reality and reshape the world. When Himari opened her eyes, Aoi and Yukari had vanished. They were nowhere to be found at home. Then Kasha appeared, telling Himari she couldn't find them because the three were locked in a crow's cage. The teacher spoke of demons that disrupt order, saying those with power must fight. That's why he aimed to control all demons and separate the worlds of humans and demons. He planned to take Aoi to the demon world. Kasha wanted to pull Aoi into the demon realm too, but disliked the teacher's interference. The teacher was adept with techniques of both realms. So Kasha told Himari she must venture to another realm to find Aoi. But as a human, entering would disrupt the balance. Humans can't enter the other realm unless they die. But death would make her a spirit, losing the point of entering. However, at this moment, the lantern left by Granny Cat lit up. Remembering what Granny Cat had said, Himari resolutely stepped into the other realm to rescue her family herself. The lantern illuminated her path. Arriving at a large gate, she encountered a gatekeeper who was fond of drinking and nearly devoured her. Initially, he refused her entry, but upon discovering she was the heir of the Momochi family, he agreed to let her in under one condition: the exchange of Himari's soul as payment. Unexpectedly, the lantern cracked open, offering itself to the gatekeeper, mentioning its connection to Himari's true name. Thus, Himari entered the gate. The gatekeeper revealed that this place stored the memories of all things, humorously noting it was essentially a USB storage room. Himari wanted to find Aoi's memories but couldn't access them. The gatekeeper told her that what she truly wished to see were her own memories, which included her past and her parents. Himari expressed her desire to see her memories, but insisted that finding Aoi's memories was urgent. However, the gatekeeper informed her that it was impossible, as there was only one chance to see the memories, and she would not be able to see her own cabinet again if she missed this opportunity. Despite his general leniency towards girls, he reminded Himari that he had seen all her memories and that she could not find memories of her parents, as even the will left by them was forged. But the memory cabinet containing all of Himari's memories was available, and once opened, she could see her past. Faced with a choice, Himari still chose Aoi's memories. She could not recollect her parents' past, but she could at least prove to them that their daughter had the courage to protect others. Himari's choice was acknowledged by the cabinet, which unlocked. The gatekeeper admired Himari's resolve, leaving a kiss in her hair and mentioned seeing her again when there was wine. Then, Himari opened Aoi's memory box. Himari followed young Aoi's memories, observing his father, a quiet man who was often away working. Young Aoi was lively, and although his mother was chronically ill and bedridden, she was kind to him. Aoi often played with older kids in the yard, though his mother watched silently. Soon after his mother's death, those children disappeared. Aoi once asked his father where everyone had gone, but his father insisted he had always played alone, unable to see what his mother had understood. After his mother's death, the home with just his father filled Aoi with fear and loneliness. Concerned for Aoi, his father remarried a year later. Initially, Aoi hoped for peace, but one day, he noticed something dark on his new mother's shoulder. When he mentioned it, his new mother thought Aoi disliked her and had made it up. Young Aoi did not understand that these black entities were malevolent spirits, making him a target. Because of this, Aoi started avoiding Hidaka and even tried to leave his parents. However, he was accused of deliberately delaying his return home. He didn't dare look up at his stepmother, as there were many demons lurking behind her. His stepmother thought he despised her, and her pregnancy made her more sensitive. Himari saw this and felt very sorry for him. It was then that Aoi met his homeroom teacher. Initially, he took the teacher's advice, but he couldn't bear to leave his father and stepmother, so he decided to reconcile with his stepmother. Unexpectedly, demons emerged from her stomach, wishing Aoi would disappear. Aoi fled to the forest, feeling responsible for turning his siblings into demons, and eventually stumbled upon the Momochi household. Himari felt extremely sad, but decided not to continue crying. She resolved to leave and search for Aoi. However, Aoi's memories told Himari that there was no way back, urging her to stay because she had seen his memories and now carried his karma. Despite being human, Aoi possessed immense demonic power. Himari started to run, but the pitiful sight of Aoi made her almost look back. Just then, a hand grabbed Himari. A girl's voice exploded in her ear. "You must not look back now." It was Tanui who took action, transporting Himari to the exit of the memories. Through the door of memories, Himari opened the birdcage. The homeroom teacher was surprised that Himari could make it this far. Although reluctant, Himari acknowledged Kasha's help. The teacher, split apart, was astonished that demons could help humans. He said his life was ruined by demons. If he hadn't been able to see demons, his parents and friends would have trusted him. So, he planned to eliminate the demons, considering Aoi as another version of himself. Himari argued that Aoi was different, as he never thought of giving up and accepted all pains yet could still smile. Inspired by Himari's words, Aoi broke free of his restraints. He now had a new family to protect, and protecting his current life was his strength. He would not forget the past but would continue forward with his memories. Thus, Aoi transformed into a demon again. However, the demonic Aoi revealed that the teacher was actually lonely. If the teacher wanted power, he could have controlled him from childhood. What he really wanted was not power, but family members who understood him. Both summoned their guardian spirits to fight. The teacher's spirits were no match for Issei and Yukari. His plan failed and he broke down, on the verge of becoming a demon. If he lost control, he would destroy the mansion, unleashing sealed demons into the world. Therefore, Aoi prepared to confront the teacher, unable to separate the demon from him. Suddenly, Himari thought of something and rushed forward to exorcise the demon inside the homeroom teacher. Surprisingly, it worked, but she faced a curse backlash. Aoi quickly stepped in and removed the curse with a kiss. Seeing Himari awake, everyone sighed in relief. The homeroom teacher, furious but helpless, quietly slipped away and was left unable to see from then on. Kasha didn't care about what would become of the teacher and was only curious about how Aoi would continue in his form. After resolving the issue with the homeroom teacher, Aoi sought out Himari for a serious conversation and wanted to confess something to her. The school year was nearing summer break, and everyone was puzzled why the homeroom teacher suddenly transferred, which usually happens after the break. Ryusei was disappointed, but quickly shifted his attention. He told Himari about a local summer festival happening that very evening. Himari wanted to attend, but had other commitments and regretfully declined. Himari rushed back home and was embraced by a hiding Aoi. Meanwhile, Yukari and Issei were setting up for a party, which was connected to a field of sunflowers called Aoi sunflowers, Himari's favorite. After visiting the flowers, everyone returned to the warehouse to look for props to liven up the atmosphere. Yukari decided to give space for Himari and Aoi to be alone. This was the warehouse of Himari's family. Aoi was not very familiar with it, and although Himari didn't remember this place, it felt nostalgic to her. Aoi felt guilty because he knew that Himari had sacrificed her chance to regain her own memories to save them. But Himari had no regrets. Aoi confessed to Himari that when he first came to the family, he found notes left by her parents in the warehouse. At that time, the family, lacking a guardian spirit, was filled with monsters and impurities. Aoi had been clearing these monsters daily, which was monotonous and torturous for him despite Yukari's reassurances that he was protecting the real world. Aoi also searched the warehouse for a way out and stumbled upon notes left by Himari's mother. Although she was of the family's bloodline, she lacked the ability to exorcise and couldn't become a guardian spirit. Yet, she found a steadfast lover. Initially curious about the family's history, Aoi became captivated by the way the family interacted, as described in the notes. He visited the warehouse daily to read them and learned about Himari's childhood through them. Himari was always crying as a baby, which worried her mother, who feared she might see monsters and bear the same karma. However, her parents were determined to protect her. Aoi overcame his fear and pain of exorcising demons through the notes. He read them several times, only to find that they had changed unexpectedly. Himari's parents were corrupted by demons, and the notes were destroyed. Along with the destruction, the last words of Himari's parents were revealed. They always loved Himari dearly, but lacked the power to become guardian spirits. They left the notes to comfort Himari, showing their love and blessing her in their final message. As the shadows of Himari's parents disappeared, Aoi worried about their child returning without the ability to fight demons, like her parents. Yukari suggested that Himari might end up like her parents, but now with Aoi as a guardian spirit, Aoi resolved to live to protect Himari. This was the meaning behind his words when Himari was attacked. Aoi said that Himari's parents had relieved him, but he felt guilty for occupying the last blessing left by them. Himari, however, was relieved. She thought she had lost her past memories forever when she missed the cabinet. But through Aoi, she learned part of her past and realized her parents truly loved her. She was only upset that Aoi hadn't told her sooner. Aoi then hugged her. Finally, everyone held a celebration. Under Yukari's culinary hospitality, they enjoyed a joyful dinner. Afterwards, Himari found a bunch of fireworks in the warehouse, intended for everyone to enjoy together. However, they discovered that ordinary fire couldn't ignite them. Aoi transformed and lit the fireworks, revealing a glowing dragon. Everyone seemed happy. And at that moment, Himari noticed the dragon appeared solid. She immediately grabbed Aoi and rushed towards the largest unlit firework. As the dragon burst into light, they jumped onto its back, giving Aoi a chance to see the outside world. Yukari and the others believed that only Himari could eventually take Aoi out. Aoi was very grateful for Himari's help. Although he had said he would protect her, it seemed that Himari had been protecting him all along. Aoi finally understood his own feelings and confessed to Himari under the fireworks, kissing her. If not for his straightforward and sunny wife, he might have ended up as the second male lead.